I'm Gina, and I'm a 16-year-old working in IoT. And I worked on this amazing project with my friend Saya, who's also working in IoT, and Kayla and Tasha, who is working in AI. So yeah, my mom has a higher chance of dying from a heart attack than my dad. And with cardiovascular disease being the #1 cause of death worldwide, that's crazy. And it's all because of how our healthcare system generalizes symptoms. Women and men experience heart attacks differently due to how their genes are expressed. Women tend to experience more silent heart attacks than men, which is when you don't feel any obvious symptoms. For example, they could have a heart attack without any chest pain and tend to experience more fatigue and indigestion. But well-known heart attack symptoms tend to be middle-aged male focused, and differences in sex aren't really taken into account. And because of this, women aren't aware of what symptoms of a heart attack really look like. They wait on average 37 minutes longer than men before calling an ambulance after having a heart attack. With every second that passes after silent symptoms, our most important organ degenerates and can never fully recover. So let's look at how companies have tried to detect heart attacks early. Of many, we have the standard Apple Watch, the Fitbit, and new earbuds that measure your heart rate during exercise. But a study from the Center for Global E-Health Innovation showed that both the Apple Watch and the Fitbit aren't accurate enough in measuring dynamic changes in heart rate. This compounds with how the symptoms they track don't even detect what women experience. So introducing Heartware, an ear wearable that can detect early stage heart attacks with machine learning models trained from female data. Around 10% of cardiovascular deaths worldwide can be prevented with the early detection of heart attack symptoms. And here's how it's done. So first off, you might be asking, why create a wearable for your ear? Well, wrist wearables for our heart attack detection don't work because of all the extra noise from moving your wrist around. And because heart attacks in women tend to be more subtle and more difficult to detect, the ear is the perfect place to find more detailed information. The blood flow from your ear in the internal artery pictured in pink here is the ideal place to measure your heart rate and blood pressure. So what is in the device? There are two main sensors, the ECG, which will detect electrical signals from your heart, and the PBG, which will detect blood volume changes. These two indicators to track heart attacks were also used by other wearables because they provide the most data in relation to their small size. After our device collects info in the ear, the data will be sent over via Bluetooth Low Energy to a phone. And the reason why we chose Bluetooth Low Energy specifically is because it uses up 100 times less power than normal Bluetooth, sacrificing the range. Then your phone will forward the data over Wi-Fi to a cloud to be processed with AI. And in order to save the device's battery life, we made sure to connect it to a phone before the cloud. And once in the cloud, a virtual system will run a machine learning algorithm to detect the signs of a heart attack. And once detected, the device will automatically call 911. The most important part of making sense of Heartware's data is how we classify the points. We chose to use decision trees as the primary classifier in addition to other models like the naive Bayes, k-nearest neighbor, and logistic regression, because these models have historically resulted in the least error when it comes to analyzing heart rates. Decision trees tend to consider all the possible outcomes and flag nodes that need further analysis, making them very reliable. The indicators Heartware will be looking for will include levels of heart rate, blood pressure, and ECG data that are in range for each individual, taking in pre-existing conditions like clogged arteries, diabetes, age, and most importantly, sex. Because women experience completely different heart attack symptoms, we will have two separate models that train on sex-specific data. And what's so important to note is how feasible our solution is. The approximate costs here add up to just over $80. And this compared to the price of visiting the ER after a heart attack or getting treated is up to 900% less costly. And with IoT and AI, a device like Heartware can change the unfortunate reality women face. Early detection can be the difference between life and death, saving your friend's life, your mom's life, and even your life. So it's your turn to choose what your heart wears. Thank you.
All right. Well done. Well done. All right, guys. So same format as last time. I've got just a few brief comments and we'll turn it over to the judges. So I think, again, great job with the imagery in the beginning. I like the way that you rope the audience in, starting out with, your mom having a higher chance of a heart attack than your dad. Everything kind of flowed from there for me. It was clear, it was punchy. It was a good way to start the presentation off. Gina, on a specific note, I think you did a really good job presenting. Your pace and cadence was on point. It was clear, you were articulate, and so I applaud you for a job well done on the mechanic side of just delivering a good presentation. I think a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is some of the slides had titles that were very generic, right? So for example, you showed the Apple Watch, you showed the Fitbit, and the title of the slide just said current wearables. Something to keep in mind, and this is kind of feedback for all groups that we continue to see, is make sure your slides, if you're going to put titles, tell the audience what they should be taking away from that slide, right? So for that example, maybe instead of saying current wearables, you could say, current wearables aren't specific enough in measuring heart rate, or like whatever the one takeaway is that you want your audience to have. So that was sort of a small point. The other thing that I think you guys should have addressed, just given the nature of the solution, is you're drawing this comparison between wearable stuff, like I'm wearing a Whoop band right now, right? And then you're talking about putting something in your ear, but what you don't mention is like the usability side, right? Like from a user's perspective, from a woman's perspective who buys your product, like are they going to want to put it in their ear, and what is the process going to be like from a usability perspective? And so that's something that I wish you guys had addressed in this presentation. Other than that, though, we'll turn it over to the judges. I think you guys did a great job, and I applaud the thoroughness and all the research that you guys did over the last 24 hours. And so why don't we kind of start in the middle this time? And Justin, why don't you kick us off with any feedback that you have?
Awesome. Great job. Again, I would probably use a little bit more data in the beginning. I think everybody knows that cardiovascular disease is one of the #1 killers in America. I think the only data point that I heard there was at 37 minutes. Like anything before that can help set the stage would be helpful. I thought the illustrations were great, very simple, very easy to follow. I had the same notes as Brandon in terms of tell me a little bit more about what putting something in your ear is going to be like when is this tech, maybe this tech comes out in 3 or 4 years when people are more used to putting things in their ear. But right now that's definitely something that maybe only sort of senior citizens are used to. So if this is an early detection product, it's going to be something that people are going to have to get used to. Yeah, other than that, great job.
Cool. Thanks, Justin. Rachel.
Awesome. Gina, great job. Echo Brandon's kind of thoughts on pacing. I think you did a great job. You were confident it was slow enough for us to follow. A few things. Also echo Justin's comment on data. And I think on the wearable piece, like I even got confused on that visual. Like, is this something I could just stick in my ear, or does this need to be like medically implanted so it's way deeper in there? So it's clear. I was just kind of like, I don't know how this is going to work from a technical standpoint. As we got farther in, I started to feel like things got a little disconnected. We started talking about decision trees and algorithms, but I was kind of like, I didn't get the connection between the logic of how the wearable is going to work versus us starting to talk through those challenges. And then I think related to that is just a reminder for everyone that every slide should be super meaningful. You want to make sure you're talking to the things on the slide. There was one slide in there, Gina, that was a process map, lots of jargon, acronyms, super complex. I feel like it didn't really get addressed. I didn't know why we were looking at it. And I just kind of left that slide being like, this slide didn't help me understand the problem or the solution. But overall, great job. I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Zen.
Yeah, good, important area. I've actually had multiple grad students focus on this challenge of the differential between female heart attacks, and and how to do it, and how to do it with biometrics, in this case heart rate and heart rate and heart wave form, and other issues. But they're really challenging because they are variable, and you have the promise of predicting some of this, but it's still an open question whether you can actually predict this at a good enough resolution. And then of course, to predict it, you actually have to be wearing the biosensor. Are you going to have your ear canal blocked in order to sense that, or you pull that out when you're feeling some palpitations? But you were talking about asymptomatic presentations before, so that's the challenge too. But like there is a cool company that is still stealth, that's coming out of UC San Francisco, which is one of the best medical centers, and they're using the back of the camera on any modern smartphone to give you a different set of pulse wave biometrics that you can't get off of an Apple Watch or any of the future iterations of the Apple Watch. So this is going to be a fun space to watch, and you're going to see some stuff develop. We just hired the CEO of Siri into this new little company, and they're going to go do a big raise. So watch out for Vital Labs. Good job on the presentation though, and keep kicking it. I think kudos to you for calling out components and trying to show kind of a bill of materials. Don't forget that you actually have to cover your costs and hopefully make a little money, and so you've got to gross that up, and so your price point's going to be higher than the 85 or whatever. But you can save that for when you're pitching all the VCs.
Thanks, Zen. Daniel, any last thoughts?
Yeah, again, great job with storytelling. I think when you try to hit home and try to hit like an image of someone's mother, I think that kind of invests the person who's listening to pay good attention. Like, wow, I wonder how my mom's doing right now. I want to make sure she's doing okay and that she's not at risk for a heart attack. So you got me invested at moment one. So great job appealing to the family. For me, I always like learning something new. And I think I learned so I didn't understand that there was a disparity between men and women in heart attack, rates and symptoms. And so it's interesting because at Stanford, I took a women's health class, and I don't think this was anything we ever touched. So you and your group actually taught me something that my Stanford education did not. So that's awesome. I didn't know this was an issue until right now. So that for me, again, that was very important into like honing into the importance of what you're trying to solve here. So that was really key. And I can congratulate you guys on doing that. I appreciate your use of graphics. I think they were custom. If whoever sketched that, great job. I think being able to create your graphics to clearly illustrate what you're trying to show is really, really important. And as a mechanical engineer, I've had to do a lot of storyboarding or a lot of concept sketching to communicate my ideas, especially in an early stage. Really important for people to understand what you're trying to pitch and what you ultimately want to develop. So really great job there. And I really encourage everyone on this call to really work on developing sketching, because you can really communicate 1,000 words in just a simple image. Yeah, I think really great approach with using a bill of materials. That's something we haven't seen yet from the other two presentations. So it's really great to get a sense in when we're trying to assess whether or not a solution is feasible. Cost is always a huge thing. So kind of understanding the cost it would take to develop one is really key. And that was a really interesting perspective to take, especially if we're potential investors. We want to know how much it takes to build one. Ultimately, if we have to build thousands, it would get cheaper from there. But no, that was a great tactic you used there. Great job. Overall, great job. Appreciated it.
Awesome. Thank you for the feedback, everyone, and great job to the group.
Thank you.